Kansas City Chiefs are champions of Super Bowl 54.
These guys are hungry for more. They are eager to win another one. They're not satisfied with that one title. They want more. They want to build a dynasty here.
Fires for the end zone. Caught. Touchdown. He lines it up. The kick is long enough. It is good.
Every conversation since the parade has been run it back and do it again.
The stats are incredible. The roster is stacked, but the best part, this team never quits. We are 45 minutes from kickoff. You have waited all week long for this very moment. Well, that wait's finally over. It is time for football in Chiefs Kingdom. My name is Matt McMullen, joined here by Shawn Barber as always. We're going to break down at Chiefs and Ravens on Monday Night Football here for you over the next half hour or so. And Shawn, I think when fans were looking at this matchup, when the schedule first came out in May, it wasn't just Chiefs fans, it wasn't just Ravens fans. Everybody circled this game.
Man, we wanted to see if the Chiefs are the real deal, and then there are fans in Baltimore thinking the same thing about their Ravens. Are their team the real deal? Are they actually the cream of the crop in the AFC, destined to be in Tampa in Super Bowl of this year?
Yeah, week 3, but it kind of feels like a playoff game already, doesn't it?
Yeah, that vibe, that atmosphere of our best versus their best, their ones versus our ones. With no preseason this year, this seems like one of the premier games of the season up to date.
Absolutely. And just looking at these two teams, first of all, the quarterbacks. It's the battle of the MVPs, Patrick Mahomes versus Lamar Jackson. It's actually the youngest match of quarterbacks, or MVP quarterbacks under the age of 20 in NFL history, so we have that going for it. Also, if you look at just the records of these teams over the last couple of seasons, since week 11 of the 2018 season, when Lamar Jackson took over as the Ravens starter, no team has a better record than the Chiefs or the Ravens in that span. And even more recently, the Chiefs have won 11 straight games, including the playoffs. That's tied for a franchise record. If they win tonight, it'll be a franchise record. Then, of course, the Ravens are 14-1 in their last 15 games. So there are heavyweight fights. Then there's this game.
No, definitely. We talk about when you find gold, what kind of gold is it? Is it 24 karat or if it's fool's gold? And we're going to find out right now, right here tonight, what team has 24 karat gold and who has fool's gold.
Absolutely. Well, first, before we dive into this, let's go over the inactives for tonight's game. And Shawn, the big surprise for the Chiefs is no Andrew Wiley here tonight. He will not be along the interior of that offensive line. Beyond that, though, some good news. Sammy Watkins, Travarius Ward, both active here for this game. Travarius Ward, of course, missed last week's game. He had the fractured hand in week 1. Having him back is a big boost for the secondary.
Oh, definitely for our secondary. We have the kind of secondary it's next man up. It's that next man up mentality. Anybody can play cornerback. Anybody can play safety. I've always tried to take our entire roster of secondary guys and just call them defensive backs, not safeties, not cornerbacks, because in Steve Spagnuolo's defense, you have to play so many, the variation of roles and responsibilities and knowing your leverage and where your help is. You can be in any of a multitude of positions, and you have to rise to the occasion. So Travarius Ward back in the fold, that adds another man, another troop up and ready to go and ready to battle against the Ravens tonight.
Yeah, really great having Travarius back in there. Of course, was so good last year, was taking that step as one of the better young corners in football. He is back out there for the Chiefs this evening. One note on the Ravens, Tavon Young, their outstanding slot corner, he tore his ACL last week against the Texans. He will not be out there tonight or all season, so that's a big loss for the Baltimore Ravens, seeing if the Chiefs can take advantage of that. So, Shawn, I want to ask you really quickly about last week first. So the Chargers gave the Chiefs everything they could have asked for. I mean, they pushed this team to the brink. Really, they wanted to win that game more than anything, you can tell. And they had a good game plan. We saw that. But the Chiefs still found a way to win. That's the mark of a great team. But when you're pushed to the brink like that, when you don't have your best game, you have to go out there and find a way to win, how can that help a team like the Chiefs here early in the season?
Well, when it's a close game like it is, those mental errors, those alignment, assignment mistakes, sometimes those things are very hard to find when you blow a team out. Everybody is so happy about the win. You scored 40 points. You won by 20 points. Everybody's happy. But when you just get by, those are the times you take that film and when you break it down, these are the plays that could have cost us a victory. And it's easier for players to go out there that next week and fine-tune and correct those mistakes because they understand that play that mistake could have been the difference between us winning and losing the ball game. And so players take it to heart. And I know our coaches really highlight those things, especially in those close wins.
Yeah, I think winning in a lesson that you learn right there is the most important thing. I mean, of course, there's tough losses. You learn from those, but learning from a win is great. How good was Harrison Butker in that game? Just finding a way to win, hitting the game winner not once, not twice, but 3 times. Great win for the Chiefs, hoping they can take momentum from that here into Week 3 against a really good team in the Ravens. And one reason the Chiefs were able to come back in that game is the play of Patrick Mahomes. You think about the first half, just he really wasn't himself. He goes 8 of 19 for 60 yards. That's not at all what we're used to seeing with Patrick Mahomes. But the second half, of course, just a matter of time with him. He's going to find some openings, find some things in the defense. He explodes for 242 passing yards. Of course, the long touchdown to Tyreek Hill. I don't know how many guys can make that throw that he did to Tyreek Hill on that one. Got the Chiefs back in it. And, of course, positioned the Chiefs on drives throughout the rest of the game to set up those long field goals for Harrison Butker. The Chiefs have trailed, or in their last 6 games they trailed by double digits. They've won, and it's because of Patrick Mahomes and his ability to lead the team back. The Chiefs are truly never out of a game with Patrick Mahomes, and yet you don't want to trail by double digits ever. But to know that you always have a chance with him, I think he's the X factor in this game and really every game this season. We can talk about how good the Ravens are, and we'll do that in the show. But Patrick Mahomes is the X factor every time he takes the field.
Man, even the defensive coordinator from the Ravens talked about Pat needing to get a pay raise. After $500 million extension, he says that it could be a $1 billion extension, and Pat's talent still rises to that price tag. And what we've known about Pat Mahomes, it's kind of, when you relate it to a baseball player, think about having a Cy Young winner who throws 100 miles per hour fastball, but then can throw an 80 miles an hour changeup and can do it from 3 different arm slots and maybe do it with both hands. That's the type of athlete we have at quarterback. He can make every throw on the field, the long ball, the deep ball. He also can run the ball, stay mobile to allow receivers and routes to uncover late in the down, and still has the arm capability of keeping every receiver alive throughout the route.
Yeah, certainly lucky to have him here in Kansas City. Some good news, too. I mean, in his last 2 games against the Ravens, he throws for over 370 yards. This defense is no joke, and he's played well against them. And also, Lamar Jackson's lost only 3 regular season starts in his career. 2 of those losses are to Patrick Mahomes. So good news there, hoping to make it 3 here tonight. Now, speaking of Lamar Jackson, he's part of this Ravens rushing attack that is so good, so dynamic. It's 2020, and yet they have the best rushing attack in NFL history last year with 3,296 yards. Just incredible. And Jackson was a big part of that. He rushed for over 1,200 yards from the quarterback position. It was the most rushing yards for a quarterback in NFL history. And, there's been some quarterbacks over the history of the league that can run the ball, but I don't think anyone's ever run the ball like Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, the downhill running philosophy of the Baltimore Ravens is something you don't see across the league. The tight ends try to emulate it, but they don't have the guy at the quarterback position take advantage of the quarterback sweeps, the RPO, the run options by the quarterback like this guy does. And then when you talk about protecting against the deep ball in the pass, and then he can avoid a rush scramble for a number of yards. So the 3 running backs they have, and Lamar, that 4-headed monster it can hit you for 250 yards before you know it. And even at 250 yards, that's not an outstanding day. That's not a day that's beyond their capability. They're looking at trying to target around 300 yards on the ground every week.
That's crazy. Just in this day and age, it's a passing league, and they're trying to rush for 200, 300 yards in the game. You mentioned those running backs, too, because you think about great rushing offenses or a great rushing quarterback, he might be the center of it all. And Jackson is the center of their offense, but they have 3 guys in the backfield who would all be starters pretty much anywhere in the league. Look at Mark Ingram and Gus Edwards. They've been there for a while now, really good. Then they go out and add J.K. Dobbins in the draft out of Ohio State, one of the best running backs in the draft this past year. They really have 3 guys that could each be bell cows for any team in the league, and they split the carries. So it's an effective attack for them out of the backfield.
Yeah, Mark Ingram is the guy that definitely can do it all. He could be a 3-down back for a number of teams in the NFL. But then J.K. Dobbins, he's that home run swing. He's the guy that takes it to the fence. And then Gus Edwards, right? He's that pile driver. He's that dump truck type running backs, 3rd and short, goal line carries. So they all 3 bring a little bit something different to the table, but collectively they come together and they create a 1-2-3 punch that's unstoppable.
You mentioned downhill running game. That's the best way to describe them, I think. Just a power running game. They rushed for 230 yards last week against the Texans, so they're in midseason form already. And now what that running game does is it opens up the passing game for this team. And we've seen Lamar Jackson grow so much as a passer over the last couple of years. Of course, wins the MVP last year, leads the league in touchdown passes. And for more on how he's grown as a passer and the weapons in their passing game, I caught up with Peter Schrager of Good Morning Football earlier this week. All right, I'm joined now by Peter Schrager of Good Morning Football. And Peter, we all know what Lamar Jackson can do as a runner. 1,200 rushing yards last year out of the quarterback position, pretty incredible. But he's really grown as a passer during his time in the league. Leads the league in touchdown passes last year. How has he grown as a passer in your view?
Well, the run sets up the pass, and you're so scared of the Ravens' run that Lamar Jackson, you're almost rather him pass. But then when he passes, he's really efficient. They have done so many things over the past few years to make it so that he can find his guys. So Mark Andrews is one of his guys. Marquise Brown is one of his guys. Miles Boykin has been stepping up. He's one of his guys. And Willie Snead plays a role too. So they might not have the Julio Jones or the Tyreek Hill or the Michael Thomas, but there are so many different players that catch the football for the Ravens that they kill you that way. And last week, the Texans, they employed a strategy where it's like, let's eliminate Mark Andrews. He was his number one guy in week one. Let's eliminate him. And then Lamar just absolutely dissected them with everybody else. Like, they're really hard to beat because they have so many receiving options and you don't know who to focus on.
I wanted to follow up on that. When you're looking at the guys around Lamar, you're right, they've really built this team around him. What stands out about his pass catchers and what they can do for him on the field in the passing game? Yeah,
I mean, Marquise Brown has Tyreek Hill speed. He might not be as fast as Tyreek Hill, but he has that in his repertoire, and he is that guy. Devin Duvernay is a rookie they got out of Texas, similar speed. So they got their deep guys, but it's that underneath stuff, whether it be Boykin or Andrews or Boyle, who blocks and then gets open for passes. They're one of those teams. And look, the Chiefs can go 5 wide, and I love all the, Kelsey and all the different tight ends that they have. The Chiefs might have the best weapons in the league. What the Ravens have are an unpredictable amount of that each week you don't know who is going to be the guy. So Hollywood Brown could go for 10 for 120, and then the next week not have a catch because Willie Snead went for 8 for 90. Like, they're not going to throw as much as the Chiefs, and yet when Lamar Jackson does throw, he's such a threat because it is that home run ability that he has with his feet and with his arm.
Should be a good challenge for this Chiefs young secondary. I'm curious to see how they respond. But hey, maybe L'Jarius Sneed gets his 3rd interception in 3 games.
I was going to say, there's Ronnie Lott, there's Deion Sanders, and there's L'Jarius Sneed when you talk about the great defensive backs in NFL history. That's just the truth.
There we go. I can't wait to see what he can do on Monday Night Football. Hey, Peter, appreciate your time, man.
You're the best. Thank you, Matt.
All right, great stuff there from Peter Schrager. Big fan of L'Jarius Sneed, and how couldn't you be? 2 interceptions in 2 games for him. If L'Jarius Sneed gets an interception tonight, he'll be the first guy since 1993 to have an interception in each of his first 3 games as a pro, so that'd be pretty awesome. But, Sean, I want to ask you about this Ravens passing game and how it changes their offense. And I want you to put on your defensive coordinator hat here. You get to be Steve Spagnuolo.
Oh, man.
If you're trying to stop this Ravens offense, great rushing attack. I mean, that's their bread and butter. Mm-hmm. But also they can throw the ball so well now, too. How are you attacking this Ravens offense, and how are you trying to slow them down?
Okay, when I look at the running game, I think no vertical seams. That means gap sound defense. You got to have a head for every gap in the defense. Keep the running backs going east-west, not north-south. And then when you talk about the passing game, you got to understand they want to attack vertical. They want to create a play action, draw up, suck up the linebackers, suck in the safeties, and then hit the big bomb plays down the field. You got to take those away by playing a very soft zone defense. Soft zone defense, make Lamar throw it into windows. Make him consistently have to throw the ball 15-yard to 20-yard stop routes, in routes, things like that. And then you got to converge on that ball carrier, try to create turnovers, because that's something that both teams do really well, is not turn the ball over. And the way you can create that, after a receiver catches the ball downfield, we got guys like Tyrann Mathieu who knows how to come in and punch that ball out.
Feature defensive coordinator right here. I like that game plan. And, we saw the Houston Texans have some success against the Ravens, at least in the first half last week. They hold them to just 44 rushing yards in the first half. I think it might have been like a talent disparity thing after a while, because the Ravens are good enough where if they're playing a team that's maybe a bit below them, they're going to execute their will eventually. So that's why they exploded for 230 yards in the second half when you looked at their full box score. But, the Chiefs have a shot here. I know that Tyrann Mathieu wants to show that this defense is better than they played in the first half last week, and this is a great opportunity to do that. You see him right there pumping this group up. This is a great opportunity for this defense to go out there and prove they're one of the best defenses in the league. They can stop a team like the Ravens.
Well, Tyrann Mathieu, one thing he realizes is leadership. Leadership is something you don't just put it on like a cape. It's not Superman. You don't all of a sudden decide you're going to be a leader on Monday night. It's something that takes a commitment, sacrifice, and these guys have been working together ever since they got here to become part of a championship-level team. And now they've achieved that last season. It's what you're going to do about it now. How are you going to build upon that? Your reputation can be destroyed in the moment but it takes a lifetime to build that character. And these guys have some. You see now, Chris Jones, he's leading that defensive front to let them know, hey man, nobody, not an inch, not a yard. We give them nothing, and we take from them everything.
Love that mentality. Now, speaking of defenses, the Ravens have a pretty good one too. And I know we've only played 2 games here, but so far they're the best defense in the NFL. 11 points allowed per game, that's the best in the league. Just 2 touchdowns allowed, that's also the best in the league. And for them, in my mind, it really starts up front with guys like Calais Campbell.
Man, Calais Campbell, Matt Judon, Derek Wolfe. I mean, those guys are perennial all-pro guys that keep coming at you. And what we know about Baltimore is that they keep the limited snap count on their guys because their defense is so effective getting off the field, and their offense is so effective keeping the ball with the possession time on their side. So what we got to do, our defense, we have to keep the chains behind them. We got to keep them behind the chains. Forcing Baltimore to some 3rd and longs, something that forces them to get out of their run-heavy offense, the run-heavy package. Make Lamar use his arm to beat us and not his legs, and make the offensive coordinator try to be a little bit creative, not just run the same plays, student body left, student body right, and thinks he's going to run the ball 50 times in this ball game tonight. Make them throw the ball, and I think the outcome will become something that Chiefs Nation is proud about.
Yeah, Mitch Holthus kind of coined this term during training camp, dictating terms. And the Ravens want to dictate their terms both on offense and defense. And you can really see that with how they run the ball and how they play up front defensively. And another guy that tries to dictate those terms is Patrick Queen at linebacker. This defense was already so good for them last year. They go out and add Calais Campbell and they add Patrick Queen in the draft. What do you like about Patrick Queen?
Man, he's a sideline linebacker. He hits. He comes with the intentionality. He comes with a focus of creating some havoc in your offense. But he has the ability to cover. He can get after the pass rusher. He can blitz. So he's just multi-versatile, so he never needs to leave the field. He only leaves the field when he wants to, and that's the kind of linebacker this league has evolved to. You have to have linebackers that can cover tight ends, cover running backs, but also take on fullbacks and run gap and make tackles for loss. He can do it all at a high level, and we gotta cut down his playmaking ability tonight.
It's an LSU reunion tonight with Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Patrick Queen. I'm hoping Clyde's the one running by him, and that's the reunion, not too much of Patrick Queen getting to Clyde. Now, in the end, what makes this defense so good for the Ravens is their ability to take the ball away. Yes. And they have 5 takeaways through week 2. That led the NFL. The Chiefs have been pretty good about turning the ball over, haven't turned the ball over at all this season, and have only turned it over once in their last 2 games against the Ravens. But protecting the ball against a team like the Ravens, who they run the ball so effectively, they play ball control offense so well, you can't give them extra chances.
Yeah, our receivers and running backs have to be so aware. Once you break through that initial defensive line and you get into the secondary linebackers, players like Marcus Peters definitely punching at the ball versus making tackles. Most coordinators ask you to secure a tackle first, but the ball-hawking, ball-hungry type defense that the Ravens play, they most often go after the ball. Whether it's in the air or in your arms as you carry it, they're going to always be punching, stripping, trying to what you call torque your body and get the ball out. So we have to, as an offense, be aware of that, continue to block downfield, hustling. All receivers stay active, stay open, and continue just to force them when they go after the ball instead of a tackle, make them pay like Clyde Helaire has done, being elusive and creating some yards after contact.
So when you're playing a good defense like this and a good team like this, as we've talked about, there's a lot to keep in mind because the Ravens are always trying to find an advantage. But one thing I really liked that Eric Bieniemy said earlier this week is, they're really good, but if we are who we are and we finish, we'll be all right. And I just love that mentality. That's what this team had in the playoffs last year. And as good as the Ravens are, I think if you have that mentality of we're really good too, we know who we are, we can finish, I like the Chiefs' chances in this one. All right, Shawn, so it's not only the battle of the MVPs tonight, it is also the showdown of the kickers. Don't say that too often, but it's Justin Tucker and Harrison Butker, probably the best 2 kickers in football right now. Tucker's the consensus best kicker in football over the last probably 5 years. I think we'd agree on that. But Harrison Butker has a shot at being that after what we saw last week. He's gotten so good. Would you be surprised if we saw like a 65-yarder in this one to win it?
Man, when I think about the term process being greater than the product, the person who I imagine or I think about is Harrison Butker, because he talks about his process. He talks about how he fine-tunes his swing plane of his leg and the tempo of his leg. Never worries about power because he knows he has a great process, and all he thinks about is great contact through the ball. And then he loses it. The ball takes care of itself. He's so accurate that it seemed like last week by calling timeouts and making them kick it, he got closer and closer to the middle because that's what he's aiming for. He wants one right down the middle every time. And I think they said 70 yards is his limit. Man, the one I saw to go through to win the game last week, could have been good from 68, 69, maybe 70 yards.
Well, he hit like a 77-yarder in the offseason, like at a local high school. Just no problem at all. The idea of icing a kicker is to make him thinking about it, and, when they call timeout right before he kicks it, to make him nervous. Like, oh, I made it, I have to kick it again? It's a hard kick. For him, he doesn't care at all. He just goes out there and gets better and better. So I think we're lucky to have Harrison Butker. And in a game like this, it's so evenly matched. Wouldn't surprise me one bit if a 55-yarder, a 60-yarder wins this. Hopefully it's for the Chiefs. All right, now let's go around the league a bit, see what happened in the league yesterday, a busy day in the NFL. We'll start with the AFC West, which all three AFC West teams lost. So that's good news for the Chiefs early in the season, obviously, but if you're trying to win a fifth straight AFC West title, that certainly helps. And we'll start with the Raiders and the Patriots. Interesting matchup because the Raiders are coming off that win over New Orleans, and it's kind of like, the Raiders might be pretty good this year. It's kind of heat check time against the Patriots. Stayed even with them in the first half, but the Patriots pulled away in the second half.
I think Cam Newton has shown everybody that he's actually back to his old status. He's ready to show them that he's able to run the ball, move the offensive down. But it was Rex Burkhead that ended up being the star of the Patriots offense, scoring 3 touchdowns, leading them with the ground and pound game, and also being effective out the backfield. It was really out of the stretch, out of the reach of the Raiders before it even became a game. And they was playing catch-up the entire game. So even at a 20-36 scoreboard, it was actually a much further part game than even that score relates.
Yeah, we'll see the Patriots here at Arrowhead Stadium next week against the Chiefs. That should be a pretty fun game. All right, Panthers and Chargers, 6 field goals in this one. Justin Herbert comes out, plays pretty well again. Played well against the Chiefs last week, obviously. 330 yards, but it was a losing effort. Chargers are 1-2.
And we saw Denver actually bench Jeff Driscoll for Mark Ripken's nephew. That name is a blast for a pass. Me being a guy that played for the Redskins back in the late 90s, early 2000s, I remember the name Mark Ripken. And so to see his nephew actually take the field, that kind of was like a time machine, taking me back to my old school days.
Yeah, well, the Broncos are tough times right now because no Drew Lock, obviously. And Jarrell Casey also got hurt, I saw in that game. So tough times for the Denver Broncos. They're a quick turnaround here. They will play on Thursday night against the New York Jets, see if they can get their first win of the year. A few other games of note, the Rams-Bills game was just crazy because the Rams just are sleepwalking through the first 3 quarters. The Bills are up 28-3, and then the Rams wake up. They score 28 unanswered points, take the lead in the fourth quarter. Then Josh Allen throws a touchdown with 15 seconds left to win it for the Bills.
Man, Sean McVay's offense is just like that. It can score 21 points in a blink of an eye, got them the lead back, and then as an ex-player, I hate to see the refs get involved late in the game. That pass interference call, I don't think you can make that call. It's so late in the game. Both the offense and defensive guy both were battling for position. For them to call that call and put the ball on the 1-yard line, allowing the Bills to take the lead with only a minute and some left, man, it almost kind of just handed the Bills the game on a silver platter.
It's a tough game. I mean, the Bills are really an interesting team because you can tell they're talented. Young, good quarterback in Josh Allen, a lot of pieces there. But there's also kind of that youthfulness of them because they blow a 28-point lead. We'll see them here in Week 6. We'll go out to Buffalo and play against them. What do you make of the Buffalo Bills this season?
Man, I think Bills is probably like the 5th team in the AFC this year. Obviously behind the Chiefs, the Ravens, the Patriots, the Steelers. I think those are the teams that actually are the teams that have rise to the cream of the crop when it comes to the AFC. But the Bills, Sean McDermott, another one of Coach Andy Reid's proteges under Coach Reid's tree of influence when we talk about across the league. He's definitely has blossomed to be one of the heads-up, bright head coaches in the league, and he's created an atmosphere in Buffalo. The Bills Mafia, they support him 100%, and I know he has that whole East Coast kind of just that mentality of if you're not with us, you're against us. It's Buffalo against the world.
Yeah, we'll see Buffalo here, like I said, in a few weeks, see how they match up with the Chiefs. Then lastly, another kind of crazy game, Falcons and Bears. Falcons are up 16 points going into the fourth quarter. Matt Nagy and the Bears go ahead and bench Mitch Trubisky, put Nick Foles in there, throws 3 touchdowns, and the Bears win.
Man, Nick, he has God on his side. He's always been a man of good faith, but he's always said, he doesn't worry about the availability or opportunity. His job is to go out on the field and run the offense. He doesn't matter if it's the starter. He doesn't care if it's the late in the game, late in the season, late overtime, Super Bowl. The situation doesn't bother him. He knows he's been blessed to throw the ball and run an offense, and he does that at a high rate. And he did it at a rate of 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter to come back and lead the Chicago Bears over the Atlanta Falcons, who once again loses the game in the final seconds.
Yeah, tough run there for the Atlanta Falcons, but good for Matt Nagy and the Bears, 3-0, and Nick Foles is now the starter in Chicago. See how he fares the rest of the season. All right, well, that'll wrap up our show for tonight. We were getting close to kickoff, but Sean, any final thoughts on Chiefs and Ravens here this evening?
The Chiefs and Ravens going to be a tough game. We all know it's going to come down to hopefully the last quarter. Hopefully, like we said, a field goal kick at the end. We just got to remember, it's two heavyweight teams going. Both of these teams, no matter what happens here tonight, come week 17, one of these teams is probably going to be going for that bye week, the number 1 seed. But we know that today is September 28th, and tomorrow is September 29th. And the Chiefs and Royals are in a partnership with United Way to host a voting registration drive and food distribution tomorrow. So the event will take place in Lot L at the Truman Sports Complex starting at 11 a.m. So join together with the Chiefs. And we want you to use your voice is the motto. Use your voice. And make sure you vote in this year's election. Visit www.chiefs.com/vote for more information.
Good stuff, man. Awesome stuff happening tomorrow at Arrowhead Stadium. Awesome stuff happening out in Baltimore here tonight. Enjoy the game, everybody. Let's go get a W.